This is Dying Your Way.
So, Claire, I've got to be mindful of how tall I am next to you. Let's see. Are we the right level?
We're fine. We're fine. We're
We're
fine.
we're we're fine. And for
Yeah.
people that are on the podcast, we're also kind of matching, but it's appropriate because yours has more color and mine looks a little faded, and that's appropriate because it's morning for you and it's night for me. So
Right.
you've got color and I'm faded.
Mm. We match. We blend.
We blend. We're a good Merlot.
Yeah.
So you're in Australia and I'm in Georgia, and we've had some technical problems. So it's late for me, and I think that we're just going to go fast and loose. But as I run on fumes, I want you to bring morning energy. And can you tell me by starting like about dying your way and how you started that? Why you started that? Like
Yeah.
I think that yeah, why and
Okay. All right.
why for
Well, there's long story, short story. I'll try to give you golden nuggets of that. But I was in 2005, I was in Oakland, California, just in my dream job, and had been there for 5 years. And my mother and father both started going south at the same time, meaning
mm,
their health was declining. They'd been divorced for 30 years. And it was my older sister's idea that I should be the one that should drop everything and go take care of that situation. So I went to
Wait,
invest.
why 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 was it why did she tag you? Why were you duck duck goose on that one?
Well, I think it was she had a daughter that was in high school. I did not. So, I mean, I will give her that. But I
Okay.
think there was
Okay, I
just
gotcha.
a preference that she had that it would be me and not her. But I did go back to Texas and I did investigate the situation and brought my mother back with me to Oakland, thinking, well, we'll just find a place for her in Oakland. And it was very expensive, and the money
Hmm.
that she did have, it was going to go further in Texas and than it would have in California. And so, and yeah, I just saw her in a different light, traveling with her. I mean, it was like having a 4-year-old in the airport, and she was, couldn't pick up her feet and shuffling. And, I mean, it was real clear that she wasn't going to be staying by herself for long. So, yeah, I gave my notice. I went back to Texas, and granted, daddy and mother had completely different issues. Mother had Alzheimer's. She did get diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and my father had metastatic prostate cancer. And they lived 5 hours apart. So I was like going back and forth, just really making myself nuts. And I joined this Alzheimer's support group, and good student that I am, I was reading ahead in the brochure, and it said that 65% of the caregivers died before the actual patient died. And I'm like, going, excuse me, there must be a typo here.
Oh my
I
God.
pointed it out to the woman that was leading the group, and she says, "Well, no, ma'am, that's correct." And so I had a real earth declare moment that if I was going to do this heroic feat of being with both my parents at the end of their life, I was going to have to make it a win-win for everybody.
Mm,
So I had a tract of land that I was going to inherit from my dad when he eventually passed away. And I just said, look, I'm going to build a house. I'm going to get a building loan. I'm going to do it, but it's going to be on the land and it's going to be a place for all of us. So I built this kick ass, like aging in place home that had a place for mother, a place for daddy, a place for me, a place for the grandkids upstairs. And, in my mind, we were all going to just like live together like that,
hmm
kind of naive. But yes, they all had their issues at different times. And I did the best that I could. And with great hospice care, you know, and support. They both died at home with surrounded by loved ones and families. And, over a 6 year period, I'd like to say I went from having a, elder care 101 to a PhD in death and dying. So people started coming to me after mother and daddy died, wanting me to recreate for them the circumstances that I put in place for mother and daddy. And Dying Your Way just really came out of that experience. But I also got certified with a wonderful doula out of Austin who was a hospice nurse. And my approach to Dying Your Way was based on an online business because Terry, my husband, and I were traveling all over the world, and I was trying to support my clients through email or Skype back in the day. And yeah, it just worked out better for us in our lifestyle to create this. I have a beautiful website and I have a lot of resources on that website. I have trainings on that website. But I would work with groups of people or individually with people and just say, oops, sorry, lost my ear. This is where the disease is. Let's just take it from this spot and move forward and make informed decisions about what works best for you. So that's what I do is I work with families and I work with patients and I work with early planners to think about death and dying scenarios way ahead of time. So when it comes to the needed point where you can't speak for yourself or you really do need that next level of care, it's not a chaotic situation. It's planned for and it is anticipated, and there's a lot of loving support around it to make that happen. And I have one anecdote I could tell you that's happening right now. I have a really good friend in the Bay Area who is in ICU. And, a group of us are trying to like sort out, okay, who's the medical power of attorney? Okay, so we figured that out. But he doesn't have anything in place legally written down to say what it is that he wants. He had a heart attack. It went into several strokes. He's like organ failure and he's, intubated. And he's full of anxiety. I mean, it's the kind of situation that none of us would want to have. But because he doesn't have the legal paperwork in place, and of course, his partner wants him to live, they're doing everything that they can to bring this guy back from the brink, and God, miracles happen. Let's hope it happens. But it's just a perfect kind of scenario that if there had been conversations before, if there had been planning before, that would not be happening right now. So
Mm.
anybody listening out there, if you don't have your advanced care paperwork in place, if you don't have a strong medical power of attorney, now is the time. And I don't care how old or healthy you are, you need to have that done, particularly if you have kids.
Yeah, we plan for vacations that we don't go on. We plan for weddings that are going to end up in divorce. We plan for all these things, quinceañeras. I mean, there's a million things we plan for, but
Quinceanera.
yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since my quinceañera, but we don't prepare for the inevitable, the thing that we're all going to do. Like, I don't know. It's very interesting. As you're talking, I keep thinking about these roles that we play in other people's lives. And when I was coming up with my questions today, which I'm not even reading because I can't, I don't have my glasses, like I told you, fast and loose. The people that come to you and people that might want to be learning how to be in end of life care, where do they come from? Is it always from a place where they've had a loved one die, or are there other entry points? I'm just curious. Like what do you usually see people coming
Well, I mean, the most people are in the middle of a situation and
for
they
you?
are,
Yeah.
yeah, and so you really do meet them where they are and try to get information about what's their diagnosis, what's their prognosis, have seeing what kind of paperwork or what they've already put in place, funeral planning, things like that. But I mean, how they come to me, it's really more word of mouth. And I don't know if that's your question
No,
that you asked
my
me,
question
but
is really more along the lines of, in the death care industry, people that you find that are in your circle, not your clients, the people that you're on your podcast with,
mhm,
where the
mhm.
professionals in death care, is it always that they're coming because of of someone they're losing someone?
Not always. I mean, there are those rare individuals that are just curious, or maybe they
Yeah.
feel drawn to go into the death industry, if you want to call it that, and just want more information. Some people have already lost their loved one and they just need help in getting good grief and bereavement support. So, I mean, everybody is just different. I mean, why you and I even connected, I mean, you're this young guy and you're, in the funeral industry and, you experience people that come to you, and they are probably have lost a loved one. But the few people that come to pre-plan, would you say they have better outcomes than the people that are coming, after the fact?
At need. Yeah, the difference is at need and pre-plan. Oh yeah. At need is chaos and crisis and expensive, and I think one of the things is you're not able to tell your story. I actually did a podcast with my father just a few days ago. Um, kind of one of those things that you might forget to ask. Like,
The
and I had
legacy,
that
yeah.
converse. Yeah, 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 the legacy thing. But it's really interesting to think about what it looks like, because so pre-planning, I pulled out some paperwork from 1966 the other day, and the stamp and the writing on it and the fonts, everything was beautiful, and the folder smelled old and wonderful, like summer camp or something. And and
That's
the
a sense memory. Wow.
yeah, it was great. It was
Yeah.
great. And I mean, just the file from, and we have these huge file cabinets because the funeral home and cemetery I work at was originally a casket manufacturer in 1839.
Wow.
And so like it's a really cool place.
Yeah.
Um, and so, you know, these people that are as old as or older than my parents were, crying because they're looking at their father's signature, because he planned all this and bought like a whole family estate back in 1966, and it was like, I feel sometimes torn about my work in the funeral industry, but I do know that there's a lot of things that I can do in the industry and the space where I work, and a lot of things that I love about it. Um,
Why do you feel torn?
a lot of times I'm really interested in green burial. I'm really interested,
Me
traditional
too.
funeral. Yeah, traditional funeral stuff sometimes is it's problematic for me because of, being an environmentalist and knowing what you're doing. But to make an impact in the death, in the industry, and 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 to be someone who is able to manage a community and help multiple communities, you have to be able to be flexible with different folks. So everybody has their rituals. I just put together basically this guidebook for people that work in end of
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about all the practices and the ways that Jewish people do everything.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Haitians, the way that Greek Orthodox. It's just a list of all the major things
Wow, that's
and
helpful.
what. Yeah, it took it was my rabbit hole for the weekend.
That's a
But
good one.
it's a yeah, it was exhausting, but it was very interesting. It'll be out by the time this podcast releases, of course.
Is it
But
something that you did for Dignity Memorial that they could refer to, or
no, I mean,
no?
maybe I could in the future. They have a lot of stuff. In fact, recently I cribbed, yeah, I cribbed a lot from their LGBTQ funeral guideline books.
Mm,
So I thought that was really a cool resource. And I was just searching it, and I was like, oh my God, it's Dignity Memorial. I was like, it made me feel all warm and fuzzy because I'm on the LGBTQIA plus um, um, employee arc, and I'm
yeah.
so I was really happy to see that. But I want to get on this one track because it's something that I think is important. How do you see, like, if we were to do caring for each other end of life
Mhm.
as positively impactful, how do you see that? What is your vision of, I mean, the good death, but not just the good death, just for
No,
a
I know what
client.
you're. I
I'm
I
talking
know what
about like
you're asking.
culturally. Yeah.
Culturally, yes, and I think that's the operative word is culturally. I think we would reclaim what we did really well before we outsourced funeral, death, and dying. We would reclaim that sense of community. Now,
Hmm.
I'm not talking about throwing out the baby with the bathwater because the majority of people are comfortable with the way we've done death and dying, is letting a funeral parlor, which the parlor used to be the
Yeah.
parlor was a living room, it's just like, and so the funeral was like, that's where they started moving the corpses that were in the parlor of a house, you
Hmm.
know, that was outsourced to a funeral parlor. And and all of a sudden, our parlors became the living room. But regardless, it was just like a community event. There were concentric circles. There was the next of kin. There was the extended
Mm.
family. There was the community that supported the next of kin to deal
Yeah.
with the loss of their loved one. And because it was before the Civil War, they didn't start embalming people until the Civil War because they started embalming because if someone died on the battlefield at Gettysburg and they wanted to bring them back to Atlanta, they started embalming them. So the body
Hmm.
would be, okay for the family to view, and that just became a thing in the funeral industry. And but if again you go back before the Civil War, it was just like, you put the body in, a beautiful shroud type thing, and you bury the body, and it's a natural burial. And I mean, I could go on and on about green burial
No,
and natural burials. I love that idea.
I love that too. And bringing it back to now, a lot of religious traditions and a lot of the new green burial traditions are including a white shroud. Like
Hmm.
it's really going back to that.
Hmm.
And if any of you that are listening want to go down a really fun rabbit hole, do look at how the Civil War and especially Lincoln's funeral, how Lincoln's funeral changed funerary. It changed everything.
Oh, tell
Um,
me. I want to
oh
know.
gosh, I feel like Luke talking to Yoda or something. No, this doesn't feel right. I shouldn't teach you anything.
No, I want
Oh
to
my
know
gosh.
though. I'm
Now
curious.
oh my gosh. So, one of Lincoln's admins died. I can't remember what his name was. And Lincoln wanted to see him and put him in state and all that stuff. And so embalming was like the new cool thing. And
Hmm.
it was just kind of done. But then when Lincoln and Mary Todd's boy, I can't remember which one, Willie, when Willie died, they had him
Willie.
embalmed. So,
Okay.
and then it became just kind of the expectation when Lincoln passed away. And so he was he was moved around a lot. And I'm doing this story very, very poorly. But because of the embalming, they were trying out different things because it was a very expensive funeral and procession and everything.
Hmm.
Somewhere between 100 and 150,000 people were at Lincoln's saw Lincoln's body and
Wow.
as he went through. So it was basically this massive advertisement for the embalming process because it couldn't have happened otherwise. So the
Yeah,
Civil
that's
War
fascinating.
plus, yeah, I'm gosh, I'm reading a book called Last Rites, and that was earlier on in the book. So now I'm more focused on something else. If you would have talked to me a few days ago, I would have had it all. But my mind
Yeah.
is a steel sieve. It's like
You
it
know,
holds something for a moment and then it's gone.
no, I mean, but it would be really easy to do natural burials now with cooling blankets and if even home funerals you could do and
Yeah,
still use the support of a funeral home. I mean, let's face it, we do need to know where the bodies are buried. You just can't bury a body anywhere. But they have interesting
yeah,
rules here in Australia too. I mean, that natural burials are certainly allowed, but you have to have the equivalent of 15 acres of land to bury a body on your own land. And the thing is, in Texas, because I looked into it in Texas, once you bury a body, you have to be like 3 miles away from a municipality, and you have to, or incorporated area, and you can bury a body, but once you bury the body, you can't sell your land anymore because it's
mm,
constant. So yeah, I think it's fascinating, and it's so going back to your original question about culturally, what can we do? I would just say, look at where we are right now. Look at where we were 200 years ago, and compare and contrast what worked better then and what works better now, and what could be blended into a ritual or a ceremony, and then give people the preferences, you know, of what it is that works for them, because everybody's preferences are going to be different. But what we have lost, in my opinion, is that sense of
the community.
ritual and community in the truest sense. I mean, you could
Yeah.
say that the funeral is a ritual, but the funeral director is looking at the clock and you got like this much amount of time and then they're on to the next funeral. And so it's like getting people out, in and out, in and out. That happened to me recently here in Australia.
Mm,
And it was yeah, it's just like, okay, the reception's over. Bye. See ya. And it's just like that whole flatness of the ceremony being over, and this widow and this family came
And
from
then
New
everybody
Zealand, came from
disperses.
all,
Yeah.
everybody just dispersed. And it was just like, and it's nobody's fault. It's our sense of connection has been lost for weddings, for graduations, for so many different
No,
things. But
you're right. It's interesting because I've been interested in like funerary clothing, and that ended in I don't know, the 20s, early 30s. But it just makes you think that a while back, and I think this is the right way to do it, is you wore black and people knew that you were in mourning. There's After you're done mourning, you go back to work the next day, or you go back to the basketball court and nobody can tell. And you're just, but I think there's something wonderful about, and even traditional uh, Jewish tradition of tearing of the clothing, and now it's tearing of the ribbon. It's showing that you are torn apart, that your world is dark, and it's a visual representation of what you're feeling on the inside. And I think that's a huge representation of our entire lives. We
mhm,
go through this world smiling with bright colors on, when a lot of times we're not feeling too fucking great, you
right.
know? And it's really interesting that you bring that up, because if it starts with the community, whether it's small and it goes out in those concentric circles that you talked about earlier, then people have a higher understanding, but there's no connectivity. It's the McDonald's way. And I see this often because I've been thinking about the cultural and aspect of these things, but I've also been thinking a lot about the gender aspect.
Mm,
Historically, it's always been women, beginning of life and end of life, very similar type of thing. And now in the funeral parlor, or the traditional funerary thing, it's a male. And I mean, that's changing a lot now, but just historically for the past 100 years or so, it's been like that. But I do notice that the clients, the people that come in that are taking care of the planning for the families, whether they know it or not, these women that are coming in, they are taking place of a role where they had a lot more hands-on experience. But it's interesting that they don't know it and they're still the ones that are tapped to do it. I don't know.
or, or what to do it?
They're still the
Chat.
ones that are tapped by the family to do it. They're
Oh,
still, it's
yeah.
almost, if if there's a man that's doing the planning, most of the time that man's a widower, you
Mm.
know? I don't know. It's just interesting to me
Well,
about the,
if he had a community at support, I mean, I don't, people assign roles in different ways, but I just
yeah,
will go back to the gender thing that you were talking about, as far
please.
as, uh, I'll just say 200 years ago, just to keep it simple. But it's just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
it,
right.
it would probably be the women that
Hmm.
would clean the body and dress the body and, you know, organize the space and things like that. But when it came to digging the grave, carrying the body, those would be the stronger ones that would be doing that. So, I mean, there were some, you know, just practical ways to split up different roles.
Right,
And
right.
so I think that was, but it was a whole community coming together, to be able to support a family. Yeah, and I think that's why it's really hard for men after they lose their wives. In some ways, it's harder for them, to honor. a loved one because that's just not their, I'm speaking generally, maybe not their strength, but they need support to be introduced into society, that they are no longer the husband of blah blah blah. They are now a widower, and so they need to be introduced into society in their new role in society. And I would say that's the same for parents who have lost a child. Children who have lost parents are now orphans. I mean, that's one of the most important reasons to have a funeral, to have a
Yeah.
memorial service, is you are being reintroduced into
Right.
society, into a new role. And that is often you, and going back to what you were saying about the color coding of, going to the black crepe that was draped on
Right.
on the graves and the door and stuff like that. And I'm going to get real southern on you because I'm a
Go,
southern
go.
girl. I totally agree that, when you are in deep mourning, you wear black, and people will relate to you differently if they know to. They won't think, oh, this is some goth person. They would automatically know that this is someone who is in deep mourning. But as that mourning transitions, they go into the gray tones, they go into
Right.
lavender tones or purples or something. There is
The
a
transition, this.
transition,
Hmm.
so people can just eyeball and see this is where they're in the mourning process, and they will approach you in a different way. And I think that's a great thing that you pointed out.
I know, and you know how I go down like the longest rabbit holes, and then if you do that, you're bound to find something funny. And so I was thinking about like if Lululemon had a grief wear thing, like a veil and then tights and a yoga mat that's
Oh, funny.
you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot, but not to get immature and goofy. When you were talking about the transition, you made me think, and the transition of when you go to a funeral, you are being reintroduced. When you said that, I just had all these faces come to mind,
Mm,
of kids, because kids are being reintroduced. And they're being redefined.
hmm
And there's something I say quite often, to my clients, because everybody treats their funeral like, oh, not everybody, but a lot of people don't see it. They're like, yeah, just cremate me and throw my ashes in the
they don't see
ditch.
the value of it.
And and the truth is, this is the truth. And your life, your life can be, yeah, it doesn't matter, you're dead. But it's not about you. It's about the people that you leave behind. It's about those
Mhm.
people, like, and I've worked at two cemeteries recently. Um, and I've seen people that come out every week and play guitar. I've seen people that come out, every once a month and lay down on their child's grave, or stuff like that.
Mm,
It's not
mm,
about it's not about you. It's about the people that you leave behind, and you don't know how they're going to grieve. You don't know how they're going to grieve, so you have to set them up for a place to be able to do what they need to do. It's not about you, and
mhm,
it's gotten to the point where it kind of pisses me off, and I come at them pretty hard because it's a selfish way of thinking. Your life was about you, your life and all these decisions, but after you leave, you've got to make a lot of decisions, and it's so greedy to not think that you're not gonna die, to not plan for death. Because if you don't plan for your death, you're screwing a lot of people over, and that sucks,
mhm,
you know? And that
mhm,
that's one of the things that I think that's that's kind of part of my job, really. It's like you've got to get it done so that your daughters don't have to worry about it or something like
Well,
that.
I mean, it's in the I don't know if I told you about this earlier, but in the your way training, we do this whole module on leaving a legacy, and part of the homework assignment of that module is that everybody has to write at least a two-page narrative of their life. And
Nice.
yeah, and they've read it back to the class, and it's just really it's so beautiful. The things that they write and the aha moments that they have about themselves, or the humor or the fun. But what they have produced, and after they read us, okay, take this piece of paper and put it with all your final papers, so no one will have to write your
Hmm.
obituary. You just wrote your obituary. This is what can be read at your memorial service or at your funeral. This is what can be published in the paper. You have done it, and you're not leaving that task to someone else. And you're getting ahead of your own story instead of other people who don't know you talking about you as a person. You are telling them about who you are and what you valued in life, or whatever, or know, your history,
That's like
whatever is important.
that's like a legacy grounding exercise of sorts, you know?
Yeah, just 2 pages.
2 pages
Just two
is hard
pages.
though. That's I mean, I think the organization of a life, because as we get older, you just the chapters, they're just which ones do you want to include, you know? I don't know. I think I'm very much like I'm on the death positive side of this. Like you're not going to appreciate your life if you don't know you're going to die. Like I mean, always been pretty simple like that. Um, and speaking on this, I think it's a good transition to go. What's one myth about like death care and what you do, end of life, that you would like to see shifted in our culture? Is there one thing or is it a lot of things? I think
Well, I'll just,
the reason you and I get along really well is because
yeah.
I think a lot of times I'm looking for something that's black or white,
Hmm.
and you are really good at finding a lot of grays.
Nuance, lots of
Yeah,
nuance.
yeah. You are
Um,
nuancy.
thank you. I I think I want to just I will answer that question, but I want to just touch back on that legacy thing just for a bit. Do you
Oh,
mind?
go for it. Go for it.
Because
You.
this is a recent aha moment that I have had for myself. And
Hmm.
in this
Okay.
past year, I started having some very vivid dreams. And in these vivid dreams, I was back in situations in my life that I regret.
Mm.
I I hurt others. I perceive that I hurt others. And I don't know what even brought this aha moment up, but I mean, I'm a pretty regular meditator and stuff. Maybe it came up in meditation. I don't know. But I have been looking back at those moments, and I relive those moments, and I make a different choice. So I'm reliving that moment, and I am correcting that moment with the person I am now, with the knowledge that I am now, with the parent that I would be now, that is not hurting anyone else, that is not so fixed on an outcome that I have to have it my way or the highway. And I have found a lot of peace in just whether that's changing it for them or not. It's like I wouldn't be that person, that same person back then. I just wouldn't be that person today. And I wouldn't have handled it that way today. And so if I can just look at my own growth and give myself a break for things that I regret. And that's maybe one of the things that about death, that when people are dying, they have regrets. And that
Mm,
emotional pain can be as powerful as physical
that's the
pain.
physical pain.
And you just cannot expect things like in the movies miraculously change on your deathbed. It just doesn't happen that way.
Mm.
And so I think it's really important that we clean up our lives prior to getting at the end if you want to have a good death. Um, so that's one thing, is just cleaning up your act before you get there. And in how, I mean, there are a million different ways to do that, but that's something that's just recently come to my attention and given me some peace of mind. So take that, your listeners, for whatever you
I love
want.
that.
Yeah, it really, and it's so simple and easy to do. But the other thing that the question that you asked about what myths about deaths, if you have good palliative care at the end of life, hospice helping you, it is just an easeful death. It's not what my friend is going through in ICU right now. It is, the good deaths are just like a thread letting go. It's just the most beautiful moment, other than seeing the birth of a child. It's right up there, is to see that life force just let go like a thread. And the drama that we have all been exposed to in movies, and the violence that we see on TV and everything. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it just, statistically, the chances of it happening to you or to your listeners are so remote. But it's so much better if you do some planning. Just makes all the difference in the world. And I see people, probably about 8 different patients a month, and that's, but they're in a good environment. They're getting palliative care. So
I
they're
like,
getting the best kind of care.
you paint such a good picture with your words. I like
Mm.
the way that you went from this heavy, almost debt of things to go into a very small string. You know, it's a reminder of, you know, how to let go. I like your process. I work with people that have neurodivergent brains and are ruminating and have been in abusive relationships.
Mhm.
And I came up with something that's worked for people to get out of their head. Um, that's along the same lines, but a little bit more me or odd. But it's basically you name your brain and then you talk to your brain, like you get away from your brain and you're like you know, and like if you name your brain something like Cindy, you're like, oh gosh, Cindy, come on, stop, it's a way to get away.
Get over your bad self.
Yeah, get over yourself, Cindy, you know, or whatever. Um, and then, you know, at the end of the exercise, you have to give it you have to give your brain a Google review, or like a review, like you were at Airbnb, and talk about how you'd like to go back there again because it's such a good place. You
Love
know,
it.
because we're
I love it.
we're we're so inside of ourselves sometimes, and within us are a lot of answers. But if we're so on top of them, we're not able to see the big picture. So you've got to be able to compress and expand. Um, you've got to be able to do both to to heal, to breathe. It's it the right practices and doing them in the right ways help healing, because healing is so hard, especially with people that are neurodivergent and that are ruminating really bad. Like deadly, deadly stuff if you don't get on top of it.
It would be, I
Um,
mean, I would just say it would, so simplistic, but I just think meditation would help anyone, and that's something you have to practice and get better at, but it's really helped
as
me.
I try really hard, but as somebody that's neurodivergent, that especially when you're overstimulated, it, you there's sometimes a hole that you can't get out of. There's sometimes a pattern that you can't get out of. And meditation,
Can you think of two things at once?
I can think of I, I can't. I don't think I can.
Okay,
I
I'm going to prove my point here. Just a second, because you can't think of two things at once. You
No, I
know,
mean I what I was about to say is I'm usually thinking about nine things at
yeah.
once.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah, no, I was saying that I can't get down to two things at once. I can't.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were saying I thought you were saying can you come down to two things at once? I can't come down to two things at once.
So you're
Uh,
having this interview with me and you're thinking of eight other things?
oh, I'm thinking of cinnamon. I'm thinking of prudence. I'm thinking of what I've got to do tomorrow. I'm thinking of a text message that I need to send. I'm thinking about yeah. I'm thinking about my right front tire. Like that's the pro. So um, I don't know if
I'm
you know my
loving this.
list.
No,
Yeah. Well,
I'm
so
loving
so
this.
I have ADHD. I'm autistic. I have Tourette's. Um, I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I have a lot of things, and so my mind. I really thought that you were saying like could I get my thoughts down to two things at a time? I usually can't.
Well, okay, so the point I was trying to make, and maybe this wouldn't apply to you, is that if you're meditating and you just focus on the breath,
Yeah.
breathing in and out, or you're sitting for meditation and you just focus on a mantra, that having that one pointed focus is a way to maybe train your brain to rest in this place that we all have, no matter what our diagnoses are. We all have this still small point inside of us that if you go to that point, it is glorious. Maybe you
I've
experience.
I have been there. I have been there. It takes it takes a very, very long time and it takes an intense amount to get to that point. But that's fine. That's just the way that I'm wired. And, you know, for me, I realize that I get to see the world in a different way than
Yeah,
most anybody else does.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I mean it's no judgment. I'm just saying there is uh, a place that we all have inside of us, no matter
yeah.
what our. I mean, I would say I'm on the border of OCD and generalized and definitely generalized anxiety disorder. I mean, I've been diagnosed with that, so it's like, but
I
I've.
I want to meet somebody that is not that could not be diagnosed with that. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I think I think GAD is everybody almost, especially this day and
But
age.
when those things that are about my anxiety or about my need to control, which is how my OCD manifests, it just I can step back because of my meditation and witness it and go,
Mm.
is this really serving me? Is this in my highest interest right now? I can can reflect and communicate with my what did we call her name? Cindy, my Cindy, whoever the center person, and just really say, is this really in my best interest? Is it? Is
Yeah.
there a better use of my time?
Yeah. That's
I can talk to her.
that's such a good question. It's really so important in life to find the good questions. I love that. I love that. And when somebody asks a good question, it makes me so happy because that does get my focus down from 9 to 3 or something like that.
There you
It's
go.
like it's like I am here with you. Um,
That's good.
yeah, no, no, now you've got me not thinking about 50 things. I don't know what else do we want to talk about? Because I'm being mindful of your time and I'm being mindful of
Well, it's late for
the
you. I mean, I enjoyed talking to you anytime, so
yeah.
we can continue the
I I do
conversation
want
later.
I did have a question for you that I don't know if this is a good closer, but you're so damn smart and wise that I think that everything's a closer for you. Um,
I hope my husband listens to this. Go ahead. Keep going.
oh geez, yeah, just snip this part.
Yeah.
And just be like, here, I just need you to listen to this part, and then have it queued up every time you get in the car and you start the car with him in it. Oh gosh, this part again. Oh,
I'm
I can't believe
smart
it.
and I'm wise
Yeah, it's so pretty.
and
Wow,
so
just
pretty.
too pretty for a podcast. Yeah, I've got the face for the radio. You got the face for the big
Oh,
screen. There we go.
please.
Um,
Oh, thank you.
I think this is kind of the the candy for me in what we do. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, but it's the stories that we get out of it. I I I, I want to hear like whatever you think right now is your favorite story that you've seen in the past. I don't know, since you started this journey in the mid 90s. What's your favorite story? You got one?
And what's the topic?
Just in this journey of starting the business of dealing with families. I mean, I think I always like the really personal stories, like Sylvia was this and became
Mm.
that, and or they came in and thinking this, that like
Okay,
I
well,
love
I mean,
those stories.
because for HIPAA laws, I mean, I don't talk about my clients specifically, so I'll try to do this in a way that doesn't, you know,
Violate, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I was working with someone in, I won't say where, but they were doing assisted dying, medical aid in dying. And this person was so prepared. They on every level. I mean, they were almost two steps ahead of me on everything, and I learned from them because they were so focused on and clear, just the clarity that they had about why they were doing it this way and going to great lengths to be sure that the family, was supportive and made the most of the time that they had left to do things together and for themselves in nature and the things that were meaningful for them, that it added not only the quality to their life, but to the quality of the life around them. And
Hmm.
so that's just a little anecdote of it can be, and I'm not saying you have to do medical aid in dying. If anything, dying your way supports a natural death, not hastening it and not prolonging it. But when people are prepared, when people have gone through their lives and put things in order in such a way that it supports the people that are left behind. That is a person that is teaching us how to die.
Ooh,
So the more people that actually have a conscious death, and I'm not saying being conscious at death, but a conscious death, a mindful
yeah,
death going into it, they're teaching us how to die well. And I think we all have a responsibility to do that. Death is not just about you. Yes,
yeah.
you're the focus, you're the star of the show when you're dying, but there's a whole cast of characters that are your audience and are watching. And they can learn. It can be the last thing that you teach is dying well.
Man, that's a hell of a close, my friend. Really good job. Like, I love that. Thank you for sharing today, and thank you for having your morning while I have my night.
Well, I hope I get to meet the real Ryan Bell in person in Atlanta or Texas or Australia or Bali.
I have a fe I have a feeling it'll happen one of these days.
I hope so.
The world is so much smaller than we think it is.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good day, and I'm gonna go brush my teeth and have a good night. Thank you.
All
And
right,
then
you go for it.
I hope everyone has a good death and all that good stuff. Thank you
And then go to my
for that.
website and get more information.
Please, where would you say? So
I'll
I've
give you the
been,
link you can put in the show notes, but it's dyingyourway.com.
no, I know, but what would be, I meant to ask that earlier. What would be the best like starting points for somebody that was just, because most of my listeners are kind of newcomers.
Hmm.
What would be the good starting points for people that are just starting to learn about this and just starting to open their eyes a little bit?
Go to the website and download a free ebook. And it really
Okay,
gives
that's the first
it gives
page.
a
Yeah.
broad, I don't know if you've seen it, but it gives the broad brush strokes of the program, and it is really in your face saying, okay, this is what happens if you don't plan, and this is what happens if you do plan. And it just really lays it out pretty clearly. So I would
I'm gonna, sh
suggest that's a good starting point.
if it's okay with you, I'm gonna share it with some of the team internally. Is that okay?
Oh,
My
God,
team.
yeah.
Okay,
No,
great. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, this
Because
is all designed to get it out to people. So,
I think I told you last time we talked, at Dignity, there's 25,000 people that work at that company. There's a
oh,
lot of really amazing hippie folks. Like I'm working with a young woman. I'm not going to say her name, not because it's it's HIPAA, but I mean, she's hippie, but she wanted to be in death care, in the industry since she was in sixth grade. I was like, you're amazing. I love you. I just want to follow you around and like figure out your brain. So I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to do for dinner in sixth grade. But anyways, what we will do is we will talk again, and one day I will see you on this side of the planet or on that.
all right. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Bye, Claire. You're the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on Dying Your Way. If it's inspired you, then please spread the word. Leave a rating and review so others can find out about us. To learn more, connect with us on Facebook or our website at dyingyourway.com. A special thank you for the artist Mel Dobra for letting us use her song, Smoke and Flame, as the soundtrack of our show. I invite you to return, hear each episode, and be part of the conversation on death literacy. I am Claire O'Berry, and this is Dying Your Way.